do the photo montage in Premiere Pro, and I have Premiere open, and I'm going to go to that folder that I made on my desktop, and I called it Photo Merge, and I put some photos in there. I also got a couple pieces of music. I'm going to close that, and I'm just going to go up here and say New Project, and I should get this, yeah. So I'm going to title this Photo Merge. Or not Photo Merge, Photo Montage. And I'm going to browse and make sure I find that folder that I put on my desktop and I made just for this assignment. And I'm going to go to Photo 2 right here and my photo montage. And I just selected this folder. All I have to do is say choose. I'm not going to do anything. I just want to make sure that that path comes back to this folder with this project. And I'm also going to click on these scratch discs and make sure that all these go back to that folder as well. You might not have to do what I'm doing because it might automatically, sometimes Premiere, just if you get it on the general, it'll just follow it with the scratch disc, but mine is going somewhere else, so I have to individually click all these, which is, you should look anyway. You should click on that scratch disc part and make sure that they're going to the photo merge, photo montage. And I'm gonna click OK. And it opens Premiere. So as I said, I have a source monitor up here on your left, timeline down here, and the project or program panel up here, monitor. This panel down here on the left is your project manager, and that's how I bring in my stuff. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this bottom here. I think, let's see. And I click on this page that's turning, and I want to click on black video, and I want to name this black video, not name it, but make sure that the width is 1920 and the height is 1080, and say OK. And now I have a piece of footage that I want it to be my base, because as I bring in film or photos, they're going to be all different sizes. This establishes the high definition size. And you see, if I just dragged it into my timeline, I moved it over a little bit, and I'm going to go over here to the right, and I'm just going to right click with my cursor right on top of that and say mark in. And as I'm working on my project, I'm going to continually be going up to this sequence part and say render into out. And you get this tab that opens, and it's rendering these files. And when I say that, what it is it's finishing those files. So this yellow line tells me that my files are not rendered. The green line tells me that they are rendered. So I'm constantly, whenever I bring a new photo in, you'll see where I bring it in, it'll turn this yellow again. So I'm constantly going up to sequence and saying render into out. Now that I have that, I'm going to bring in my photos, and I'm going to say import. And I get the beach ball of death, as I call it. And it's looking for it. I'm going to go to my desktop, go to my photo 2, and go to my photo montage. And I'm going to hold down my shift key. I'm going to bring in my photos. I'm going to bring in my audio files. I'm going to bring in everything for right now. And you'll see they all come down into this project pan. So I'm going to click on my first one. I just double click on it and it shows me this. I'm going to put it down in my timeline. I'm just going to drag it down in here. and it'll be my first one. If I click on that, you see it's way too big. It's bigger than the high definition. So that tells me my camera was shooting at probably like about 3,000 pixels per inch. I'm going to go up here and I double click on it, and I'm going to go to Effects Control. This is the source monitor, and this is the source video that's in here. Right next to it, I click on this, and it has this motion, position, and scale. It also has rotation, anchor point, and opacity. Opacity just means the clearness or the fullness of the piece in resolution. So if I turn down that opacity for any reason, you'll see my video goes to black. I'm going to leave it right at 100. But I am going to go up to scale and scale this down. I'm just dragging it to the left. I can make it really small, but I want to keep it in the same size as that black video. So I'm going to leave it right there. So I have my first picture. I'm going to add another one. So I'm going to go to this next one, and I just drag it down behind that. I can put it on top next to it. I can put it on the same track. So I have this and that. You see, if I press the space bar, I'm starting to get. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add my cartoon, and I'm going to put that right behind that one. So now I have a series of 3. And that one kind of jumped a little bit, and I think it's because I don't have it butted up right against this one. Yeah. And this one should be right there. Yeah. Okay. If I wanted to zoom in on one of these, let's say this one, I just double click on it with my cursor. It pulls it back up into here. And right here, the big blue, this is the entire length of that photo. So if I set my scale or my size at the beginning to one sequence, and I drag this to the top and add a keyframe, which is this little alarm clock. If I put a keyframe there, then drag this scale up a little bit, and then drag this back to the beginning, and then click on the scale. Here's the little key point again. Once I click on this time clock once, it adds these keyframes. I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to go back to 100. So now I have this effect that it's coming at me a little bit. Lastly, I might add a little text on here. I'm going to grab this text tool, and I'm going to come up here and call this mix. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. Ah. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm really messing up here. Mix, photo, montage. Well, I'm on the wrong key. And I can use my move tool just to drag it over here, put it in the middle. Now I have that, and I'm going to add some music. So I find my music, I double click on it, it puts it up in here. There's this one. Kind of dramatic. And then I had this one. Yeah, I think I'll just grab that one. I'm going to put it down on the bottom underneath all this. And now when I go to my beginning, I hit my space bar. My music should come up. And my first photo. And of course I would go back and add some movement to these by double clicking on this. I'd go back to effects. I'd probably add a zoom effect on this. I'll hit that stopwatch. You see it adds a keyframe. I'm going to come up here, add another keyframe, and I'm going to increase that scale. So now I have a little zoom effect on that one. You can also do that with the position. Up here is the left and right. So if I wanted to add some movement going left and right, I could do that by adding a keyframe. I can also go up and down. And I would just click on this keyframe here. Let's say I'm done. Let's say I put 10 photos on there and I'm done. I'm going to cut off this end. So I cut that off. And I go back to my move tool and I just draw a rectangle over these two. I right click and I say cut. And now I'm going to export this. So I'm going to right click right here, say mark out. I'm going to make sure all this is green up here. So I go up to sequence and say render into out. And I want to finish it. So there's 3 things or 4 things to do. When I'm done and I want to get it out of here and turn it into an MP3, I go up to File, I go to Export, and I say Media. And I'm going to come over here and double click on this output name. And I'm going to name it Photo Montage. And I'm going to decide where it's going. So I'm going to put it back into my Photo Montage folder. I'm going to say save. So that's the first thing you did. Actually, the first thing you did was go to File and Export and click on Media. And then we renamed this and decided where it was going. That was the second thing. The third thing is I'm going to click this format and I'm going to make sure I have H.264 is the output. I'm going to make sure that use maximum render quality is clicked and I'm going to hit export. And that's it. And it's going to export my file. It'll go back in my folder and it's ready to go up on Instagram or Vimeo or YouTube. And that's it. Once it's exported, all this will close. I can save this project as is. Just go to File. I might want to change it later. I'm going to say File, Save As. Make sure it's named Photo Montage. Make sure I know where it's going. Hit Save and Replace. And that is the Photo Montage.